you are in the pages of the New York Times today.
Yeah, I want to make as many plus EV bets as possible. So knowing what's a market overreaction, what's a market underreaction to certain fights, just being able to interpret what I'm seeing with my eyes is how I'm able to bet and how I'm able to win.
When you went through the process here, where did you, what number did you put on Ankalaev?
I had Ankalaev at 74%.
At 74%. Okay, right.
Almost minus 300.
Welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Pace is here. On today's show, Andrews steal the spotlight. Pace is in the New York Times, and we've got MMA originator Andrew Gombas on the show. And as always, of course, we will hit the gridiron grind. Gosu will be here a little later in the show. All right, Pace, let's kick things off with the really big news. You are in the pages of the New York Times today. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, the article in the New York Times about live betting, as I think typical with the pieces that I've been in so far, they're very much about the dangers of gambling and obviously some of the challenges that the public will face more often kind of than not. This particular article is no different. It's just much more focused on live betting, the profitability of live betting to the sports books, not to the player. Yeah, just essentially that you can really bet on everything. And there's a couple stories in there that there's one story actually, Shane, I don't know if you saw it. It's about a guy that's getting reverse middled. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So I was going through that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because that particular story almost brought me back in time and put me like, in a room with my boys in my early 20s where, everyone's very much gambling. We were betting $5 to $20, I would say. This guy was betting six figures. But it's funny how the psychology of a bet where you're sitting there and you're cheering in the Cardinals and you think that you've got it made in the shade. And then, of course, the game doesn't go your way and you look to get out of your bet. And we've actually seen on the live stream where let's say, I don't know, we placed a wager on someone to win a quarter and the very next play, there's an interception. So the bet's done. It's in that case, of course, you could get an interception back, but it would be like spinning a roulette wheel, betting on red, landing on black, and then saying, how can I, get out of this bet? And then looking to find a way. I've seen people in our group that are like, how can we get out of this bet now? And I'm like, you don't. You've lost. You let it ride and hope for a miracle. And other than that, you just move on. But yeah, this particular guy middles himself for hundreds of thousands of dollars where he bet on the Cardinals. The Cardinals go down. And then he takes the spread of the Rams live when the Rams were up 10. So I'm assuming he probably took a 7-8 or 9.5 spread for hundreds of thousands to get out of this bet. And the Cardinals closed the gap and lost. So he landed in his reverse middle and got absolutely smoked. And it took me into the mind of what it's like to be that sort of recreational, degenerate sports bettor at any level, whether it's $20 bets or $100,000 bets, and how vulnerable people can be if they really don't know what they're doing. And meanwhile, of course, Shane, thinking in that circumstance, we probably ended up having the Cardinals plus if they were down 10 on a
good chance.
on a stream. So. Anyways, really cool feature at the very end. They're kind of like, oh, by the way, you can win at this as well. This guy does. And just they throw up that photo of me, which, is really, really cool to be featured in a new publication. So I think we've checked some pretty major ones off the list. But actually, Shane, what was really cool is she actually did a 2+ hour interview with me, and she joined us for a couple of live streams last March. And she was thoroughly impressed with what we were doing. And I actually thought that this article could have gone a lot deeper into some of that. But I think that, when you're the New York Times and there's an article that needs to come out that you've been working on for literally 9 months, there definitely is a certain message that they want to drive home. And I think that any sort of glimmer of hope as it associates with betting and who's doing it right might not fit the narrative for, what they're putting out there.
It certainly wouldn't fit with what the New York Times is about. If anybody reads the New York Times on a regular basis, the article is very much in keeping with the New York Times and what they do and what they're about. if you go through it. They really kind of highlight the dangers of live betting, which Pace we know and acknowledge, exist and are very real. Especially if you're just trying to wing it on your own and you're just, making bets, watching a game and just sort of, firing off at anything, anytime kind of thing. It's interesting too, because they go through a lot of the evolution of how, live betting came to be and the sort of intersection of the leagues, the sports betting companies, the data providers, how they're sort of all working together and sharing revenues and that kind of thing. And sort of, just a real kind of overview of the ecosystem and how live betting kind of came to sort of be a sort of prominent piece of the ecosystem. So I thought that's just from an information point of view, it's just a really kind of, an interesting read in that sense. So, encourage people out there to go have a look, have a read of it, check it out. Pace, I think it's funny though, because you're right. She mentions not that she was sitting with you, but she talks about that Friday in March and how you placed a bet in the final minutes of a professional hockey game in Finland.
Yeah,
Implay members will certainly know what kind of bet that was.
I actually remember that bet, and it was one of my only Euro bets of the entire year. Matt came on, popped on the stream, and there was just a crazy opportunity. And we took a game over, and I bet a lot on that one. So I actually really remember that one.
Well, that's awesome. Euro hockey in full swing now too, of course, and I know many members out there paying attention in the morning and early afternoon hours, depending on what time zone you're in. All right, very cool though that you got featured in the New York Times. Super cool stuff there. All right, let's move on to something else, Pace, because you had something else kind of funny happen to you over the weekend, and this is something that can also happen on SX, Pace, and I know you and I have kind of seen this with each other, where it's like, oh, I see Pace has gone and taken this a bet over on SX because your name pops up. It's there. Same thing with me. You've seen when I've maybe made some bad bets on SX, and we've talked a little bit about that. Now, there's other platforms out there though where you have a username and people can see what you're betting, and so you had some people see what you were betting over the weekend and reach out. Tell us a bit about that.
So. First of all, is stake.com and a lot of sites, they have the ability for you to see other people's bets.
Yeah.
I can't find it, Shane. I can't find where people see my bets on Stake, but they can. They can. Okay. I don't know where. I can't seem to figure it out. I see that they're like those chats that run down the right side of a screen. You would think on Stake bets would be going like crazy. But I'm on the chat right now looking at it. I don't see bets coming through. And I guess somewhere in your profile, you can turn on or off these bets being public. I didn't even know mine were on. And not only that, it's an interesting story. So a Stake, like obviously they limit you. I was a very early user of Stake, and we've brought them up on this podcast. If you go back to our affiliates episode, it would be one of our first 10 episodes. We told a pretty in-depth story about my relationship with them and how that all went down. It was actually a pretty funny story. That was one of our first sort of outings as you have this great affiliate program at Stake, and we built our whole rewards program around Stake, where we would give all of our revenue received back to the players, and it wasn't based on loss. It was based on wagers made. And we're like, this is just the best revenue share system imaginable. And then people that were joining in Play Live, they would get tipped from us on Stake for having brought someone in. And it was just this amazing system. And it lasted 5 days. Right? But back then, Stake was anonymous. You didn't have to KYC. And of course, in those 5 days is probably the time frame when they started doing it. So you could just make new accounts, and you had no issue doing it. And the withdrawals were instant. And what's funny is they also told me they didn't limit their players. They definitely do. But at that time, they didn't have player props, especially for the NFL. And if they did, they definitely didn't have them live. And those old accounts that all got clipped, the player prop system you can still wager with, which is awesome, right? So I've been, I've been playing on Stake again,
okay,
because that area hasn't been limited for me.
Okay, right.
They do limit them. So I have to choose my words carefully here. They do limit the players on their player props. However, some of those old accounts that I've had limited now have the ability to be played on again.
Wow.
This last weekend.
And the limits are changed? They're raised?
Oh, they're enormous.
They're enormous. Enormous.
I haven't found the top end of their limits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm playing responsibly. I think the largest I've done is about 5.
Okay.
But that's big.
That's on a player prop?
That's
on a
big.
live player prop. That's massive.
Yeah. So anyways, this weekend, for the first time in 5 years, I played on Pocket Pacers' stake account, my stake account.
Right.
Okay. And had a nice little run, a few thousand up to 23,000.
Yeah. Shout out Prop Eye.
Whoa, hey. I'm sweeping the board, Shane.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, shout out Prop Eye. All right. Anyways, hell of a run. Just crushed them the last couple days there. And last night, throughout Monday Night Football, it goes beyond what I told you on stream, Shane. I have half a dozen DMs in my Instagram spam folder. I have messages on Twitter. And the one message I did receive was this guy who actually knew who I was, saw the bet, tailed it, and it was what was our player prop? First player prop in the Jets game last night, Shane. Breece Hall's over on receiving yards.
Breece Hall.
So he saw that, tailed it. We won. Saw Achan's rushing, tailed it. He won. Saw who's the guy we're calling Patrick Taylor? That tight end for the Jets, saw that one.
Right.
So he's DMing me saying, I'm tailing all your bets as they're coming through. Great calls. He swept the board tailing me last night on stake. But this is a very short-term thing because I'm going to assume I'm clipped today. If I'm not, great, but I will be very quickly. And then that following Pocket Pacer is done.
That guy caught lightning in a bottle though for that moment there. I hope he sent you a tip or something.
No tip or anything like that. But he did. I thought the fact that he reached out and thanked me was cool.
That is cool. That is cool.
Maybe there's some other people that did it too, but they wouldn't reach out because they're like, oh, he might make himself not public. And they want to keep getting those picks. But anyways, I've got guys sending me screenshots of my bets, telling me for a fraction of the bet size, they can send me fixed matches. They've got all this stuff. They have this team of people working to make sure they have a 100% win rate. So this is the point. If your social media handle matches apparently your handle on stake, look out because the scammers come full board when they see wagers come through from your profile.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. That's really interesting that they're kind of, checking that out and scanning that and then targeting people based on it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny too that they would target you, a guy who's gone and won a whole bunch of props here. And instead of maybe asking you, hey, what are you doing? No, they just want to try to sell you their scam service.
Well, that says it all. You've got one guy that actually bet the bets himself. And then you've got other guys that just see you bet a large amount. So think you can afford to, go blow all your money.
That's fun stuff. Wow, man. All right. Well, you're probably done on stake, but who knows? Maybe you'll get a good run out of it.
Oh, I already have.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's been awesome.
That's great. Fun stuff. We've got a great guest on the show. You didn't get a chance to join for this interview, but he was totally awesome. I think a lot of people will appreciate it, whether you're an MMA fan or not. And we get into a whole conversation about pick selling, which wasn't the intention, but we got right into it. And very candid stuff there. So without any further ado, here's that interview with Andrew Gombas. All right. I'm very excited to welcome Andrew Gombas to the show. He's a professional sports bettor, an MMA originator. You can find him on Twitter. He's at Bets and Picks MMA. and he recently crushed a seminar at Bet Bash all about MMA betting. Andrew, that's where we met, at Bet Bash. Thanks for coming on the show. Really glad to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Excited for the card this weekend. Should be a fun time.
Yeah, we got a massive card, UFC 320, Ankalaev, Pereira 2. We'll dive into that in a little bit and maybe get some of your breakdown and analysis, which I know many in our audience will be very much looking forward to. But before we get there, let's find out a little bit more about you, learn about you a bit. How did you get into sports betting?
Yeah, so I actually got into sports betting at a young age. I wrestled my whole life, so I was interested in MMA because of that. I liked watching the fights, so I started betting the fights like I said, at a young age. Before I was old enough to have a credit card, I would give my dad cash I had from chores to use his card to put like $50 into a betting account, and I really liked it. And then once I got to college, I was like, okay, I'm doing pretty decent with this. Like I learned that there's people out there that sell picks. Like at this point, I didn't even know that pro sports bettors existed. So I was like, I'm going to get as good as I can at picking these fights so I could sell my picks. That was initially what I did and like what my end goal was. And it kind of just took off from there. And I eventually realized that, there was really good money to be made in sports betting for someone like me. And yeah, the rest is history. But it started all the way back in high school, I would say.
Wow. Okay. That's really kind of interesting. Like you got into this with the goal of eventually selling picks,
Yep.
not like, why was that? Like for most people, they get into sports betting, like you mentioned, younger than they should. That was the same case for myself. But you're looking to make money off of the betting itself, not a lot of people enter it with the idea of, I want to get really good at this so that I can sell picks. Talk to me a little bit about how you kind of came at it that way.
I just didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know pro sports bettors existed. Like I figured, I'm going to win more than I lose. But in my head, I was like, no one can make a profession out of this. And I quickly, I did some thinking over time. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I'm getting good at betting, I might as well actually like focus on just betting more. And it took me years to realize that. Like I sold picks for a really long time. Even when I had started betting professionally, like I was still selling picks just because it was a good stream of income, and like it was just hard for me to let go after doing it for 7 years or whatever. And part of it was an ego thing too. Like there's something that feels good about winning for other people and getting like some sort of praise for it. It was a hard habit to break, but I'm very glad I eventually did, because obviously I've been able to scale my business up much more and just have more general success than I would have been able to as opposed to if I was still selling picks. But yeah, that was how it all started. Like I had friends in college who were like, yeah, we bet these college football games and we paid so-and-so for picks. I'm like, oh, if you paid so-and-so for college football picks, like I definitely could. And it just kind of spiraled from there. And that's how I got that idea in my head. And yeah, it went well for a long time. I mean, if I had it to do over again, I obviously would have moved away from it or never even done it to begin with.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask you about buying and selling picks and that whole aspect of the industry, because I knew you engaged in it. I thought we'd get into it a little later in the interview, but since we're here, let's really dig into it. Okay, so you're no longer selling picks. Why?
It didn't make sense for me to. I'm fortunate enough to do well betting, and at a time it made sense. When I was betting $100 a fight, or even up to $500 a fight, like I could get the money I'm looking to get down without moving the market, and I still have valuable information. So then I would sell my information after I had already bet it, because I was betting it for such small amounts. But as the years went on, and I'm building my bankroll, I'm betting more, I'm making more. It didn't make sense to be selling picks anymore, because I was trying to hold the number for people to follow me at the number that I wanted to bet at. But really, I should have just been betting bigger than I was, not worrying about what other people are doing. And that's eventually what I did, but it took me a couple years longer than I should have. I probably also stretched it because my last year selling what I wanted to be my last year selling picks, I didn't do great for the people tailing me. So I probably would have cut it off earlier, but I didn't want it. Again, this is all like ego stuff. I didn't want it to seem like I was stopping selling picks because I wasn't doing as well as I once did, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I can understand how sort of conceding that, you know what, I'm not winning for people is hard to kind of acknowledge, I guess, right?
Yeah. Every year I sold picks, we were in the green. Like, but there was a drastic difference some years and others. Like that year I mentioned, I think it was like 2023, I was like 1% ROI, or not even that high, but I had a year where I was 22% ROI. And so it always, that was something like I was very prideful about, was that I never, like, no matter when you started, you didn't lose following me. And everyone over a 7-year span would be able to say, like, if I followed you for this year or that year, like, we won together. And so I probably would have stopped after that 2023 year. And I just kept it, I stretched it one more year for ego and did really well in that last year. And then I hung it up in that sense and just focused on, I started betting professionally in 2020, early 2023. I was making good money doing it before then, but I'm talking when I left like a full-time job was January 2023. And so I was, trying to build a small sports betting syndicate, also while trying to sell picks and also while trying to find accounts. I was really just wearing so many hats and trying to do every single job that there is to do within this industry at once. And I still am wearing a lot of hats, but that's just one less that I don't have to worry about nowadays.
What job did you leave in 2023?
I worked in the insurance industry. I was in sales.
Okay, right. Yeah, a lot of people in the sports betting industry come from insurance, a lot of actuaries and people like that. Yeah, so sort of fits a mold in some ways there.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. Like I wasn't one of those people that hated going to work every day, but obviously this is much more enjoyable than any desk job.
Yeah, for sure. Even though you spend probably most of your time at a desk anyway, it's very different.
Yes. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about why then you felt like, I guess you were giving out picks, you're selling your picks, and you're scaling up your unit size. Were you finding that as you were giving out these picks that your edge was kind of being eroded because you were sharing it?
I felt I was hurting myself because, I was making money from selling picks, but it's also extra work too. I was providing a write-up for every fight. I would have to time it to where, I'm doing a release at a certain time so that people could get the number that I'm getting. A lot went into it. And there were times where I probably should have been betting earlier, given my unit size, but I was trying to hold it so I could release it to subscribers. And it was just too much. Like at that point I should have just been, when I could get down, when I want to get down, just let it rip from there. And that's what I eventually did. But like I said, it took too long. And I'm really happy with how things have gone now. Obviously still originating MMA all these years later, but it allows me to just focus on betting, and I'm researching, I'm betting, I'm researching, I'm betting, and I'm trying to automate other parts of my my business as well. Like we bet other sports, we have other originators, we have other groups that we move for. So I'm trying to distribute that to the people on my team as much as possible, because betting MMA is my biggest passion. Like the other stuff's great, I enjoy it, I plan on doing it for a long time, but to me, just betting, researching a fight, finding an edge, making a bet, beating the number, hopefully, like to me, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing I enjoy more than that. It's been lucrative for me, so I plan to do that for a very long time.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun just to engage in the practice of it. I totally can understand that and relate to that. So what else are you betting then? Beyond MMA, what other sports do you look at?
Everything, you name it. Like we bet NFL, college football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, AAA baseball, European basketball. Like,
you're in everything.
Yeah, I want to make as many plus EV bets as possible. So that's my model. I try to aim for, especially with partner accounts, I try to aim for higher ROI stuff. But obviously, there's a time and a place to bet an NFL total versus like a AAA baseball total. And so we really do it all. And I'm always looking to expand more. And I'm always finding new stuff to bet, like stuff that I didn't know existed or stuff that I didn't know there was a market for. More books have more obscure bets than as opposed to like 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So anticipate things trending in that direction even more so within the next 3 or 5 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the landscape changing so much all the time, especially when we talk about prediction markets and the role that they're playing in shaping the landscape and all of that. You sort of keep mentioning we. Who's we? Who's the team?
I have a team of 5 that I would consider to be actually in-house, right? There's obviously dozens of partners and movers and account getters, but I have 5 people that I would consider like to be a part of my in-house team. I have 2 people who are their main job is executing the bets. They're actually betting the plays into our accounts. They're giving fills to the originators or groups asking for it. They're determining which partners get sent a play. And then I have 2 people on my team that strictly bet at kiosks. Like they spend all their time at kiosks betting there. They pretty much live there, really. And then I have one person who does like accounting stuff and onboarding new accounts and admin stuff like that. So that's the team as of now. Obviously, that changes all the time too. Like, plan on growing that in the future. But yeah, it's been going really well so far. And it's all hands on deck this time of year, especially like September when college football is in full swing and UFC's every weekend. It's especially hard for me to manage on Saturdays when I'm so focused on UFC and we have a million plays coming in on college football, and that's not going to lighten up anytime soon with NBA starting and college basketball not too far on the corner as well.
Yeah, we are definitely in the full workload season, or it's approaching anyway. November and beyond, it's just insane. How do you manage it all?
Working a lot of hours. I work 365 days a year. I work on Christmas. I work the morning of my wedding day. Like I really I spend a lot of time doing it, and getting a lot of help from my team now, which I didn't always have a team this extensive. It's obviously something you kind of need to do as time goes on if you're looking to scale up more than what you're at right now. But that's been a help, and I anticipate it being a help in the future as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that here on the podcast, the power of the team. I mean, just give me a sense of how it's impacted your betting, going from a guy sort of solo and selling picks to a guy who stopped with the pick selling and really working with, it sounds like, a team of other originators and sharp bettors. How did that sort of elevate you?
It freed up my time to focus on what I'm best at. Like I have certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and it's just allowing me to focus more on my strengths. And, they pick me up in spots where I might not have the expertise, or maybe I do have the expertise, but I'm just stretched too thin. Like a lot of times that's really what it came down to. If I'm doing this, then it takes away from me doing that. And if I'm doing that, then it takes away from me doing this. And all of a sudden, nothing's getting my A+ effort because I'm just spread too thin trying to do too many things. So really, my main focus right now is MMA always. And I'm also managing relationships with like other groups, other originators. Then I'm hunting for new accounts as well. So those are the main things that I'm doing right now. I'm not doing as much of like executing the day-to-day bets, not doing much in the accounting aspect, that type of stuff. I'm fortunate to not have to spend my time on anymore.
I want to move on from this topic, but I got to ask this just before we really dive into the MMA stuff. On the topic of pick selling, how would you sort of describe the current landscape of pick selling out there? Because it's really got a lot of negative connotations out there now.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I haven't talked about it. Hopefully people will appreciate this. I haven't really talked about it at all, but I used to be that guy that was like, I'd be annoyed when people would say, oh, all pick sellers are scammers, like, it's not worth buying pick. I would, like, take it personally because I was doing it, and I felt like I was providing, like, a good product, and I still feel that way, but I didn't realize at the time that almost nobody else was. Like, now I'm way more in the category of, like, all pick sellers are scammers, which is funny because I did it for so long. But I really feel that way. There's so few, like me personally, there's no one I pay picks for anymore. Like within the last couple years, there were maybe like 2 or 3 stragglers left that I thought I still had value, like paying for their service. And now it's down to zero. Like, I just don't have any interest in it. For someone like me, it's not worth it. For most people, it's not worth it. Like, most of the people don't win. That's the biggest problem. Is it like 99 point something percent don't win, and then the other like 0.5%, like let's say they do win, it's like you're betting, it's an account killer. It'll trigger bot because so many other people are playing the same thing at the same time. If someone were doing it that I felt like was really good, I probably would follow, but there's a few people left that I think you'll probably win small with them following over like the course of long term. I'm not really looking to do that. And it took me a while to come full circle. Now I'm one of the people in the crowd being like, all pick sellers are scammers, don't buy picks, et cetera, et cetera.
And you literally have like bets and picks in your Twitter handle.
Yeah. Yep.
That's funny. That's awesome though. That you know, it did come full circle for you. All right, we really brought you on the pod here to talk about MMA. So let's like really dig into it here. Give me a sense of what your process looks like.
So I want to be done with my research. With my first layer of research, I want to be done the Sunday before the card, which is Saturday. So when the week starts, I want to be done with my first level of research.
So let me understand this then. So UFC 320 coming up on Saturday. You finished your research by Sunday.
My first layer of research. So I'll go through all the fights. I'll probably spend an hour on each fight, make a number for it, make a confidence interval for it, or a confidence level, like say a scale of 1 to 5. And then I'll look at the market. I'll see the spots where I'm either way off on price or I have a high confidence interval. I'll say there's 12 fights. There might be like 5 of them that fit the criteria of where I'm going to be looking to place a bet on a side that makes sense for me to look deeper into it. So then second half of the week, okay, so let me back up a bit. If there's a spot where on Sunday or Monday, like where it's just a slam dunk spot, like, and I don't need to do a ton of deep dive into it, like I might just bet some of my position then and just say, like, there's some fights where I could eyeball it a little bit more than others, and I know my strengths. I know, this line's probably pretty off. I'll bet some of it there. But if I really want to dig into a spot, like I'll do that first layer of research before going into the week of the fight, and then I will circle, those 3 or 5 fights where I had a high confidence interval, where I'm way off from the market, call it where I'm 10% off from the market and I have a good confidence interval. I'll go back, I'll look into that fight again in more detail, say, did I miss anything here? And sometimes, sometimes I'm honest with myself. So sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. It's like, okay, maybe I was over evaluating this and under evaluating this. Or I'll look at it a second time and say, yeah, I feel just as strongly here. Like I'm leaving no stone unturned. And those are the spots where I'll really, those will be my main spots that I'm looking to bet. And that's pretty much it. I'm watching the market 24/7. Getting a good price is really important to me. Just trying to balance that with timing and entry and getting a feel for what other people are doing. If I like a fight at minus 150, but it seems like there's some early resistance, like I'm not going to jump in and unload right then and there. I'm going to kind of wait to see what it does. But if I like the same fight at minus 150 and I can see it starting to tick up, like I'll probably take some there and just monitor it through the rest of the week and try to get a feel for like what some of the other bigger groups are doing like at the end of the week. And that's what I would say my general process is like. I'm always trying to fine tune it, but generally speaking, early week, have that first layer of research done, have my initial number made. Any obvious low-hanging fruit spots, bet it. Any spots I really like, bet it. See how the week goes. Do more of a deep dive for the spots I might want to scale up. Maybe bet it again. Maybe if I never bet it, maybe bet it then. And just decide how I want to approach the positions going into the weekend. And, by Saturday, I'm pretty much all set. And there might be some stuff where, like if I could tell the market has a lot of disagreement, or like sometimes the market, I'll be in line with the market on a fight, and Saturday, like all this money pours into one side. I'm like, okay, now they pushed it into my range. Whereas if throughout the week I was in line with the market, but they pushed it too far, where I think now there's value on the other side, I'll go back and bet that other side on Saturday.
Right. Okay. So it's initial research, looking at the actual fights themselves, originating your numbers, figuring out, where you're at for each fight. And then throughout the week, it's really kind of just reacting to the market and sort of following market signals.
Yeah.
But the research side of it, that initial side, that first layer that you kind of talk about there. What is that specifically? And what I'm asking here is, are you looking at all of the analytics? What types of analytics are you looking at? And then how much of it is tape and just watching?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I feel like my answer would be a lot different than a lot of people's, especially in ball sports. Forget about it. There's no one like me where I'm like 95% tape and what I see with my eyes, and like 5% numbers and analytics. Because I personally feel like
that's a huge amount, because a lot of people out there doing any kind of modeling, whether it's MMA or something else, it's all numbers and analytics and stats and data points.
I would say it's the opposite. Like for most people in most sports, there'd be, it's 95% modeling and data. But for me, that's what I feel like is my biggest edge and what gave me my edge to start with. That's why I don't really worry as much about like an edge eroding, because it's not something I can find in the numbers. It's just years and years of, coming from a grappling background, understanding certain positions that other people don't, being able to blend that with just having good like betting principles and knowing what to look for in the market. Knowing what's a market overreaction, what's a market underreaction to certain fights, like just being able to interpret what I'm seeing with my eyes is how I'm able to bet and how I'm able to win. And so I also am fortunate. I have a really good memory, so I don't need to spend like hours and hours and hours watching tape. Like I could probably
you remember the fight from actually watching it live in the moment. Yeah, that makes sense.
And the last time I researched it. So, if you think about it, like let's say I'll use Ankalaev for example. So let's say 3 fights ago was his fight with Johnny Walker. Like, so I taped him going into that fight. I watched the Johnny Walker fight live. Then when I taped him versus Rakic, I watched that fight again. Then when I taped him versus Pereira, I watched that fight again. So now I've seen that fight 3 times. I have a pretty good.
You mean the Johnny Walker fight? You've watched that fight now 3 times since that. All right, okay.
And so I really only need to spend like an hour, kind of re-going through stuff in my head the first time, and then like I said, if there's a spot where I really want to scale it up, I'll probably spend another hour. But it's rare that I need to spend more than 2 on a fight. Like it would have to be something unique, like a weird situation for me to need to go deeper than that. I actually feel like less is more sometimes, where there were points, I'm always trying to get better, always trying to fine tune. There were points in time where I tried to do more, and I actually feel like it didn't help because I would like overthink stuff. And so this is kind of the sweet spot of, where I'm not like cutting corners and just trying to wing it, but I'm also not overdoing it and, not fixing. It's like one of those things where they say like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I'm trying to really hammer, that sweet spot.
Love it. I really like something else you said in there about, how so much of it is from what you're seeing, and what, as opposed to the numbers and that kind of thing. Because a lot of what we do at In Play Live is live betting and really focused on what we're seeing happen in the moment, as opposed to, a lot of the data and modeling, which, absolutely has a place and has a role. And depending on who you ask, might be influenced more. But a lot of what we do is based off of the eye test and watching and seeing something unfold and what we're seeing in the moment. So that really kind of rings true to me as sort of a great way to kind of approach sports betting, regardless of sport. When it comes to the analytics, do you start to say like, okay, wait, I do need to pay attention to this?
At a very high level, like I'll give you an example. Like the Ankalaev fights, I'll just keep using that one because
Yeah, sure. It's the big one. It's coming up.
It's the big one. And they fought before. So it's really easy. So I'll say, okay, here's the data at a very high level. They fought their very last fight. They fought each other. Ankalaev won on all the cards. He won 4 rounds on one card. He won 3 on 2 of the others. So I look at the numbers a little bit more. On paper, the striking stats were relatively close. If you just say, okay, first thing I look at is distance strikes, 75 to 69, Ankalaev, very close, only six distance strikes apart. But then you look a little deeper, look at head strikes. Ankalaev tripled him up at head strikes. Like, obviously, a head strike is the most important. That's the most impactful shot. Obviously, leg kicks can add up, or a body shot can hurt you, but really, head strikes is the most important metric, in my opinion, out of the 3. 36 head strikes to 11 head strikes. So that tells me, wow, Pereira really did not land much at all. Like, 11 head strikes over 5 rounds to me is a massive, massive, massive red flag. Like, why? So I'm like, why did that happen? How did that happen? If I'm projecting how many he's going to land in the next fight, I'm like, okay, it's probably not going to be much more than that. And it's very hard to win a fight where you're not landing a lot of head strikes. So that's just a data point that stands out. And then I look at takedowns. It's like, okay, obviously you kind of know, if you know Pereira, that he's not going to shoot many takedowns. And he shot 1 takedown, didn't get it. Then you look at Ankalaev, he shot 12 times, didn't land any. And so to me, it's like, why was he not getting those takedowns? It's like I see based off the stats that he's trying, but it's like, okay, was he kind of like half-ass shooting takedowns, or was he really, really trying, and Pereira's takedown defense was just that good? So that's something I would need to rely on tape to see. Like, that to me doesn't tell me much other than he shot 12 takedowns. It's like, okay, what's the context? Were they good shots and Pereira defended them? Were they bad shots? Were they kind of just half shots to push him up against the fence? So that's kind of, really beyond that. I don't use. The only other one is control time. Like Pereira had 0 control time, and Ankalaev had almost 6 minutes of control time. So those are really the only stats I'll even look at, and that's just to really give me an idea of how the fight went at a very, very high level before even watching it. It kind of, the best way I could describe it is it sets me up to know what to look for when I do watch the tape on it.
Right. Okay. Interesting stuff there. So let's dig into the fights, specifically this one a little bit more here. It sounds like you're probably already leaning Ankalaev just based on what you saw from the last fight there. And those takedowns, were they takedowns where he was trying, or were they takedowns more just to have the threat of the takedown be part of the game?
Yeah, so it's a great point. And I did bet Ankalaev the last time they fought, but you also have to acknowledge it was a very different price. Obviously now, Ankalaev's minus 250, so people are building in that last fight, and obviously, anticipating a similar fight for the most part. I do as well. I don't think that necessarily Ankalaev was shooting bad takedowns. I do think he could have committed to some of his shots more. I don't see a lot of iterations of this fight where Ankalaev is getting easy takedowns, where it's one of those situations where if he shoots, he gets it, no problem. I do think if he does get, his takedowns will be meaningful if he does get them, if that makes sense. I think if he gets on top of Pereira, Pereira's not going to get up. Ankalaev's going to land a lot of damage. And it's just, like, a takedown's probably the round. Like, if Ankalaev gets a takedown or the fight, like, I don't see Pereira getting up. I don't like his defensive grappling, especially off of his back. So then I think about different ranges of outcomes. Okay, if Ankalaev lands 3 takedowns, what's the price? This is the questions I ask myself. If he lands 2 takedowns, what's the price? If he lands 1 takedown, what's the price? If he lands 0 takedowns, what's the price? So these are all the things that I go into, that I think about going into the fight. And he landed 0 last time, so I probably have to say, okay, it's more likely he lands 0 than he lands 3. And then what's the likelihood of 1 and 2? And I kind of just go from there. And then, a fighter like Pereira, who's getting up there in age, you kind of have to assume that, he's not making any significant improvements at this stage in his career. He kind of just is what he is. And if anything, you actually probably are building in for a decline at this point in time. Like, I think, just off the top of my head, I think he's 37 or 38. Like,
yeah, I think he's about 38. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if anything, I'll probably build in a little bit of regression for him. Also, some of those outside factors I don't pay too much attention to, but I'd be remiss if I don't mention like the fact that he's been champ already. He's gotten rich. He's gotten famous. Like he's done all these things. Like, is he really going to climb the rank? Like, is he going to dig deep and climb the ranks again? Like, I don't know. Whereas Ankalaev, again, I'm not anticipating any major improvements, but he's not at the point of his career where you can expect any regression. So I'm expecting a similar fight as last time, where I do feel like Ankalaev looked like a comfortable favorite just on the feet, and if he is able to land takedowns, I think he'll look like a massive favorite.
All right, so you're kind of expecting to see the same fight over again.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Ankalaev is able to get a takedown or two this time. I think watching that fight back, he'll say, I know I'm comfortable on the feet, but that's the only spot where he could beat me. Let me really commit to a takedown or two. Or you never know. I mean, it's hard to try to put yourselves in these fighters' heads. Like, I try not to do it too much just because you don't know what they're thinking. They might be thinking one thing now and go in there and do something completely different. So I tend to lean on what I've seen. And I'm like, okay, if no matter how bad I want to say, if Ankalaev just goes out there and commits to a couple good takedowns, like he's going to look minus 1,000, I have to stop myself and say, okay, that's a big if, because last fight he landed 0 takedowns. So I have to kind of check myself there and say, I have to be conservative about where I line the fight based on the fact that what I've seen, I saw the fight for 25 minutes. I didn't see Ankalaev on top. So I have to assume it's more likely than not that he doesn't get major top time in the next fight. But that being said, if someone were to get major top time in the next fight, it's going to be Ankalaev, so you have to price that in as well. It's all about finding a balance.
Right. When you went through the process here, where did you, what number did you put on Ankalaev?
I had Ankalaev at 74%.
At 74%. Okay, right.
Almost minus 300.
Minus 300. So, at minus 200, minus 250, there is some value there in your analysis.
Yeah, I would say so. Right. And I had a pretty high confidence interval on that fight because I've seen it play. Like, I saw it play out for 25 minutes. Both fighters are so well established that you kind of know what they both are at this point. Whereas if I'm researching 2 debutants, it might be a little bit, might be a lower confidence interval than that because you don't have the sample size on them. They're fighting different levels of competition. Like Ankalaev and Pereira, they're both been at the top of the UFC for however many years now. Like, we have a big sample size on both of them. So you kind of just know what they are. And it's about interpreting, okay, here's what they are. What does that translate to for this fight? Any
other fights on the card that got you excited? Maybe have you already placing some wagers?
Nothing like crazy stands out. I think I did a layer of research, as I like to call it, on the Daniel Santos fight. I'd have to go deeper on that one, but my eye initially tells me that his price tag is a little bit short here at minus 125. I just think because of his relentless grappling and relentless gas tank, that gives him a lot of advantages here. Where we saw a guy like you who in the third round against Erickson, he got out grappled. And I do think Yu's a pretty good striker. He's a dangerous striker. He's on the bigger side for the division. Like, he definitely presents some problems on the feet. But just given the fact that on the feet, it's probably going to be close, and if Santos can get the grappling going, like, he has more upside. So to me, minus 125 feels short, but I do have to dig a little bit deeper and look at Yu's regional tape because he's had a good start to his career. So that would probably be the other spot that I'm looking to target.
I like it nice and low on the prelims.
Yeah, sometimes first fight of the night could be the best one.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great place to look for value. I love it. All right, one last question before I let you go here, because we are running a bit longer than I had anticipated, which is great. What would you say to other people out there that might be tuning in? Maybe they're rec bettors, maybe they're rec plus, or perhaps aspiring sharps and that kind of thing. What would you say to them about where to start if they want to start originating? And actually, really kind of developing their skills, whether that's in MMA or any other sport.
Yeah, I'll give advice on MMA because that's what I learned how to do and find success in. So I'll say a couple of things. First and foremost, like, watch a lot of fights and pay really close attention to like some of the the minor stuff that might not be clear to the eye. It's like, okay, he defended this takedown, but why? Like, how did he position himself? How could the other guy position himself to get the takedown? And then from that, so A, watch a lot of fights. B, pay really close attention to like the small details. 3, I'll say, pay attention to how markets react to certain things. Say, okay, this guy was minus 900 in his first fight in the UFC and he underperformed, and now he's only minus 250 against a similar caliber opponent. So was the line in the first fight that wrong, or is there an overcorrection here? I would say to bet early. Like if you're just getting started out, you don't need to bet. You're probably not betting big amounts, so you could get down your position early when the market is softer. And then lastly, don't have too much of an ego. Like if you're betting early and you like the fighter at minus 130, and on Saturday you bet minus 130 on Monday, but it's minus 110 on Saturday, like don't press the issue there. Like someone with more money than you and probably more experience than you is seeing something that you're not seeing. So just, I'm not saying you need to hedge your bet, take a loss, whatever. If you want to do that. But don't add in those spots where you're getting resistance, because you'll end up going bigger in spots where there's disagreement, and I'm sure your ROI will be lower in that type of situation.
Yeah, great advice there. You don't want to bet against the market, especially if you're overexposing and going against the market, right?
Yeah, even me, it's like I'll make a bet against the market, but I'm not gonna bet 6 times as much as I would if the market agrees with me, just because like it doesn't
Right.
make any sense to.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. Well, Andrew, this was great. I really appreciated you coming on the show and having this conversation, and really being so candid with your pick selling experience. I wasn't sort of expecting that, but that was awesome. And of course, your UFC analysis, highly valuable. So appreciate you coming on for that. Andrew, where can people connect with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I had a really great time talking to you. Hopefully we could do it again sometime. My Twitter is @BetsAndPicksMMA. That's the best spot to find me. And from there, feel free to DM me or tweet me or anything like that.
Awesome. Great stuff, Andrew. Appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, time to hit the gridiron grind. Gosu in the house. John, how you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Great to have you back for this segment. Always a lot of fun to sort of break down the football week ahead. We're going to kick things off on the college football slate. What are you looking at for us?
Yeah, so last week we went 2-3, so we're 50-50 on the season so far. A couple bad beats, I would say, that have hit us so far this year, but nothing too strange around here. So this week, we got to talk about 2 ranked matchups. There's only 2 this week. So Vandy at Alabama. I believe the last time they were both ranked playing each other was the very first year of the AP poll in 1936, I want to say.
No way.
Yes. So hopefully people were, I know in our community, were on the stream with us early Sunday morning. I said I was taking Vandy plus 14. That line is now down to 10.5, which is probably about where I'd expect it to stay. I have a lot to say about this game, but I'll keep it short. Alabama's given up 200 plus rushing yards against the only 2 competent teams they've played, Florida State and Georgia. And Vandy is number 4 in the nation in yards per rush attempt. I think Vandy's going to be able to run here. I know Vandy's schedule hasn't been that great, but they definitely gave Alabama trouble last year. And I think they're really just a better team. They don't have the surprise factor, obviously, this year that they did last year, being unranked and having never beaten a number 1 team ever. But I still think this is probably too many points. If I had to handicap it, I would say it should be like 9.5, a little under. You kind of have to do different things with models in games like this, teams like Vandy, where they're going to play the entire play clock every single play, and they're going to try to make this game as short as possible. And it kind of breaks a lot of models. That's why service academies getting 2 touchdowns or more as an underdog cover so frequently, because the models simply can't understand how few possessions are likely to be in the game. So I think that's an advantage there for them. Just some stats. Kalen DeBoer, 8-14 against the spread as a favorite of over a touchdown in conference play. And then everybody knows Diego Pavia, the cover king. He's 9-2 against the spread as a dog at Vandy, 5-0 as a 10.5 point underdog or better or more. He's 6-5 straight up as a dog and 3-2 straight up as a double-digit dog at Vandy. So kind of just an auto play in this spot. Should be hopefully a pretty good game.
Okay, so wait. So you called out Vandy plus 14.5. You're still taking the plus 10.5?
I would still take the plus 10.5 for the people out there listening. I'm definitely paper trading. I got as much down on those early numbers as I possibly could. So I might be somewhat rooting against people on my own call, but I would still take the plus 10.5.
All right, plus 10.5. And of course, I'll maybe perhaps, if you're inclined, a little sprinkle on the money line.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't Pavia really approaching to be a front runner now for the Heisman at the stage? Like the odds have really come down.
Yeah, he's at some places, like especially offshore books, he's as low as 12 to 1. You know, he's put up a ton of numbers against some of the worst opponents that they've played, like the FCS teams, the Group 5 teams, and he put up good numbers against South Carolina and Virginia Tech. So, you know, this Alabama defense hasn't been that great. I think Georgia, you know, they stifled Georgia a lot in their last game, but Georgia, I think Gunnar Stockton is the second lowest in the nation in average depth of target for throws. There's just no explosiveness in that Georgia offense right now. So I think to me that was a little bit more about that team than it was about Alabama's defense, who got scorched by Florida State. So yeah.
There's a certain mindset with him as an underdog that there's a reason he's covered at the rate that you mentioned there. He embraces that role to a degree that I don't know if we've even seen in sports, like with an arrogance that's you almost love him for it. It's got almost like a Conor McGregor type feel to it from when McGregor was up and coming. I love his energy, and I think he's gonna leave it all on the field. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Win or lose, that guy's putting it all on the field.
Yeah,
Love it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's I think it'll be a public underdog. I think the public's gonna see all those trends. They're gonna want to buy into the story and all that, but also people get a little scared, and it always feels good to just lay it with Bama. So we'll see what people end up doing. But the other ranked matchup, Miami at Florida State. Early line there was Florida State plus 6.5. That's gone. It's down to about 4 now.
I see 4.5.
Yeah, I do still like the Florida State side. I do think it should be a field goal. I'm not gonna take the 4.5. I bet the line early in the week, but I don't. It's a little scary to me. I'm playing that one a little smaller than these others that I'm going to cover. But I just wanted to mention that game. I think Miami might be very, very, very good. And it's just kind of like the Mario Cristobal and the malaise of the ACC that we may not be giving them the respect that they deserve as a top team in the country. So I think it should be a good test for them. The other actual picks that I do have is a lot of garbage this week. So we'll start off with the stinkiest of them all. Northern Illinois, Miami, Ohio, under 38.5. I think this game is unwatchable, which is why I'm betting it. These are two of the slowest, worst offenses in the nation. Two also good run defenses. I think this is just a slog. Northern Illinois lost 6-3 last week, and I think we could see a similar game this week. So under 38.5, Northern Illinois, Miami, Ohio. Another under I like, Michigan State, Nebraska. This one's really steaming down. Around this time yesterday, it was 53.5. It is now 49. I would still bet it at 48.5, even maybe 47.5. I think those numbers will stick around. It might not get that much lower than where it is. Just think Nebraska can't stop the run, but Michigan State has no explosiveness. So I think there's going to be some long ground-based drives with potentially field goals at the end of them or even turnovers. Michigan State's really struggled to score in the red zone. So I just think this is going to be a grinder. It's also supposed to be really windy. I think that's the main reason for the total coming down. I think they're projecting like 30-plus mile per hour wind gusts in Nebraska. To kind of get that this time of the year in the open plains out in the Midwest. So like that one. Notre Dame minus 20.5 hosting Boise State. Notre Dame is in a situation where I think they will probably not play another ranked team the rest of the season unless USC can figure it out. So what they need is they need to beat everybody. They needed to beat Indiana last year and beat everybody by as much as possible. And I don't think they'll stop when they get up 4+ touchdowns. So I'm not afraid to lay almost 3 touchdowns here. I think this Boise State team is not very good. They may be the class of the Mountain West. That's not saying much. I think Notre Dame is still a top 10 to 15 team that's just lost 2 games against top 10 opponents. So they really need to put this one on them. I like Notre Dame minus 20.5 at home there.
John, just to interrupt you there,
Mhm.
with the pregame stuff, I've already got this game circled for this Saturday. Dame was one of the most profitable games for us last week, if not the most profitable game. We just absolutely dominated that one. Would you look at the first half spread as opposed to the game spread pregame?
I would, yeah. Most of the time you have to lay more points relative to the amount of time, though you would expect them to try harder in that time frame. But yeah, these are just a lot of books don't have first half lines at the time. Typically we record this on Monday. It's hard to actually find those lines, but yeah, I would take like a Notre Dame minus 13.5. You could probably even maybe get 12.5 in the first half of this one. And I would definitely like that.
Like a day or two before the game, they'll put those half and quarter lines out. If you're looking at that stuff. And John, just on this game too, then are you sort of saying that like, let's just say, for example, Notre Dame comes out, blows the gates off of Boise State there. They're up, I don't know, 40 to, they put up 40 plus points in the first half. Do you think that they wouldn't lay off the gas, that they would just keep, a pedal to the floor kind of thing and keep going in the second half?
They may play slower, but I think the starters will remain in the game and they'll intend to keep scoring on every drive because it's, the covering matters in college football, especially for more than one reason. Coaches want to cover for their boosters that are betting big dollars on their games. That's one reason. And it also matters for the committee selection. So the committee selection, they're probably not looking at how many times you cover the spread, but it matters. They're probably considering mathematical models. I know for a fact the committee is referenced looking at the Sagarin ratings, which are a well-known, like they're the Ken Palm of college football. He also does other sports as well, but they've referenced those, all of that stuff. How well you perform throughout the entire game is considered in a lot of those things. So it still matters.
Okay, cool. Good to know.
Yeah. It's like right now, I'll tell you, I give them about a 30% chance of making actually less than that, about a 26% chance of making the playoff. So they have some work to do from my standpoint. So they really need to beat everybody and beat them badly.
Okay. Anything else in college football, or are we moving on?
Yeah, one last game. I like Wyoming plus 3.5 at home against UNLV. So UNLV, an indoor track team, still doesn't even really know what their identity is. First year coach Dan Mullen there. Wyoming, tough place to play outdoors in altitude. I believe Laramie's 7,000 feet above sea level. So should be some wind there as well. I just think that game should be closer to a pick, in my opinion. I don't think UNLV is very good. So I like the plus 3.5 there. I think it's a really good spot.
Okay. All right. Over to the NFL.
Yeah. What a awful slate of games this week. Somehow it gets worse.
Every week I feel like, this slate sucks.
Every week it gets worse. I think it's just because I think probably 20 to 24 teams in this league are bad to subpar, I guess.
Yeah. You might not be wrong there.
Yeah. So, and there's already a lot of injured quarterbacks too, right? Which is what contributes to that. Yeah. So this week, starting off Thursday night, I like the Rams 49ers under 47.5. This is a divisional game. Two guys who obviously know each other very well, know each other's playbooks very well. That Niners offense doesn't look right. Purdy doesn't look right. Kittle's out. He's hurt. I think Puka Nacua was hurt in the last game, like this past weekend, right? So I think he's questionable. Everything about this game just screams under to me. 47.5, pretty high total for a division primetime game anyway. And that stadium also plays a little like it's outdoors with the way it's open air and all that kind of stuff. So it's very similar to Las Vegas. Those stadiums don't really play like indoor stadiums. So I like the under in that one. Sunday morning in Tottenham, I like the under 36.5 in the Vikings-Browns game. I can't believe I'll probably get up and watch this game. I have to think that Kevin O'Connell is going to try to make Carson Wentz not make mistakes or put him in positions to not make mistakes. So I think this is going to be a very conservative game plan because you don't want to let the Browns defense beat you in this game. So I think under 36.5 is a good bet. I would try to get 37. Maybe it goes back up a little bit. That's actually a key number, if you can believe that. But 36.5, I'll still happily take the under. In that one.
Crazy on that one. I see it opened at 41.5. And it's already been pushed 5 points lower.
It always sucks to not get the when there's people out there that have a number that's that much better, but it's also a really good indication that a gun to your head, that's probably the right side, right? Yeah. So I'll take whatever number I can get probably right now in that one. Next one is really disgusting after last night, but the Bengals plus 10.5 at home against the Lions. So an outdoor game for the Lions after they beat the Ravens in Baltimore and then blew out the lowly Browns at home. It's really sleepy spot here. Love backing teams after they score 3 or less points. I think just historically, it's a really good spot. I make this under 10, so the 10.5 is good. I think this might actually keep going though. So I will take the 10.5. We'll make that the call here, but I do think you're going to get an 11.5 here in the next day or so. And so I'll be taking that number when it gets there, but Bengals plus 10.5. I like, unfortunately. The next one is a better one. This is more fun. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be back. All indications are that he's coming back this week. I think they even said before the last game that he probably could have played, and they chose to just hold him out an additional week. So getting Washington plus 3 on the road against the Chargers. I like this spot. I like Daniels coming back, get some energy injected back in that group. I think the Chargers team's just a little overrated right now. I can't get to this number. Even I'm handicapping this as though Daniels isn't 100%. I still can't get to this number. So getting plus 3 on the Commanders, I think that's a good environment in that pseudo indoor stadium that I talked about. I like that one. So gonna take the Commanders there at plus 3. And then finally, on Sunday night, Bills Patriots under 50.5. I also have a star next to this one. I think this total is really climbing. I think we could get 51 by the time the kicks, 51.5, which is the last really important number there. I like that. It's an outdoor high total divisional primetime game. Just the Bills offense and defense scare me for unders, but I mean, do me, I guess. This number is too high, so I'm taking the under in that one.
I mean, a divisional game, if they come out and scoring slow to start, why not? But yeah, that Bills defense is just suspect. They're going to give up points all year, I think.
It is bad. I just need Drake May to turn the ball over in the Bills red zone and not his own red zone, hopefully, in this one for me.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least,
definitely
CFL.
least. Definitely least. Are we still talking about the CFL? Like, I think at this stage we just let's shut it down.
Did you not make some CFL bets this past weekend?
We did. Yeah, we're since the NFL started. Let's look. Since the NFL started, so the last 4 weeks we are 6-3, and we've hit 5 underdogs outright on the money line. In that time.
All right.
So
I'll shut up. Send it, John.
I have to keep going.
The show goes on.
So this week, these lines are actually, I think, really sharp. Again, strangely, the only exception is I think BC and Calgary are 2 teams that are really going in opposite directions right now. And BC's laying 3.5 at home. Maybe I'm falling for it here, but I think this should be closer to a touchdown with the way these teams have played over the last few weeks. And so I'm laying it with BC at home minus 3.5. I want to say Calgary's like 1-3 and 1-4 in their last 5 games or something like that. Like they've looked horrendous in those games as well. So and BC's look very good.
Oh, that's bad for our Grey Cup bet.
Everybody gets in the playoffs. They're already in the playoffs.
We're way ahead. We're way ahead on the futures odds in that. We were way more ahead, but they look awful.
All right.
BC all of a sudden looks insane. The league's so fucked up.
It might it could be worth mentioning, like, I know before the season we talked about like how the win totals were all inflated, you know. It's going to be pretty difficult for any of these teams to actually, like, I think 6 teams might go under the win totals, which seems impossible because there's only 9 teams in the league. But I think, again, that's like indicative of the value in those bets. That's
got to be a CFL thing. Like, if any league could do that, it would be the CFL.
Correct. Yeah. So like Ottawa is 10.5. That's already under. Toronto is 11. That's already under. Montreal's 10.5. They'd have to win out to go over that. What's another one? Edmonton was 8. They'd have to win out to go over that. Winnipeg was 10.5. They'd have to win out to go over that, which all these teams can't win out. They play each other, right? So some of these are going to win. So you've got 3 that have already won. And then you've got all these teams that need to win out to go over. So really funny how that it actually worked out to where we're probably going to get at least 5, if not 6 under. So if you just bet the under on every win total every year in the CFL, you make money.
Yeah, I remember that we definitely had that chat.
Yeah, we did. That's unbelievable that it's coming through. Just crazy. Okay, Pacer, teaser.
Yeah, so a funny story. Chesto, our producer, he didn't know what a teaser was.
Oh.
So he just bet a 3-leg parlay on last week, and he won because the Packers pushed, and the Chiefs won at plus 130, which pays the same amount as the teaser alone. And then he had the Broncos tacked on there. But anyways, I have a lot of rules for these teasers, and I feel like these last couple of weeks, going 1-3, obviously hindsight's 2020. Even though we went 4 of 5 on week 1, I'm breaking my rules, and you never take a dog on the road. And last week I loved the Broncos Chiefs as my 2, and I'm like, I got to slap the Packers on there. So yeah, that was stupid, and it cost us. I do love 3 this week though. Giants plus 7.5, Colts -0.5, and Buckaroos plus 9.5. 3 legs get us close to back in black. Definitely will be placing.
Sorry, what was the Tampa Bay line?
Bucks are plus 3.5 at Seattle. I actually just like them to win that game, but I don't bet pregame with that kind of stuff. But plus 9.5 on the Bucks, I can't ignore.
Just to recap everything that we just gave you there, in college football, Vandy plus 10.5, FSU plus 4.5, Northern Illinois, Miami, Ohio under 38.5, Michigan State, Nebraska under 49.5, as low as 47.5, right, John? You'd go as low as, yeah. Okay. Notre Dame minus 20.5 against Boise State, Wyoming plus 3.5. All right. That's college football. NFL Thursday nighter, San Fran at the Los Angeles Rams under 47.5. Minnesota and Cleveland playing on the other side of the pond under 36.5 early Sunday morning. Cincinnati plus 10.5 against the Lions, Washington plus 3 against the Chargers, and New England playing in Buffalo under 50.5. And then in the CFL, BC minus 3.5, Pacers teaser, Giants plus 7.5, Colts -0.5, and the Buckaroos plus 9.5. Got everything there, guys?
Buckaroos.
All right, guys. Awesome time. Great work this week, and a lot of fun. All of those wagers that we mentioned there, you could very likely find the lines, maybe even find better lines at SX. Go check out what they've got posted for those games. The lines should definitely be posted by the time this episode comes out. If not, then the day after. But go check them out when placing any of these wagers. You can often find better odds over at SX than you'll find anywhere else. All right, guys. Awesome work. Till next week. Pace, John, sports bettors around the world. Keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in play live, use promo code BehindTheLine.